You're locked into In the Loop, when the groove runs deep and the stories run deeper. Today's guest is a true architect of the Scandinavian electronic scene, from early disco and electronic roots to decades shaping the sound of club culture through radio, dance floors and beyond. This is someone who's been there since the beginning. As a long-time voice on Swedish radio P3, he helped introduce generations to house, techno and everything in between, championing artists before they became global icons. Calle Dernulf has spent over 20 years documenting, curating and pushing electronic music forward. I'm so happy to have this legend on In the Loop. Hello, Calle, and thank you for being on In the Loop with me.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
It's such an honor.
You're too kind. Nice to meet you. And
I really wanted to make this episode about kind of finding moments in your life that have shaped you and really interesting stories that might also help other folks to navigate life. You seem to have got a grip on it and been able to be true to yourself through all these years and so many shifts in the world have happened, right? Technology, the way music is being consumed today. So I'd like to start with what has been your North Star of life?
it's I pretty early on realized that music would sort of shape my life and shape also, in a sense, how I viewed upon life. Because it's rather early. I was brought up in kind of a family where music were consumed and played a lot. No one being professional musician, but it was music around. It was radio. It was records being played home. We went to some concerts. So music was sort of something that was around all the time. So I'd say that is probably one of the most, or the most important thing, really, because it definitely resonated with me and has stayed with me as the thing that is, well, just like the air I breathe. I'm constantly drawn back to music in some kind, in some kind of way.
That's so amazing. So what was the first time that you really felt this urge to pursue music? And did you pursue music as you wanted to be a musician, or you just wanted to be an evangelist of music, who just talks about music and wants to push the boundaries of music? When did you first have that urge?
It's sort of a combination of being obsessed with radio as well. So that these two things go hand in hand. It's as a young kid, I think the first time I was probably around 6 or 7, my kind of playground was in my room with the tape recorder and a microphone. And I had a sister and a brother. They were sort of stand-ins while I was doing a radio show at the age of 6 or 7.
So they were the guests?
They were the guests, could be. They could be also athletes that I interviewed. I was doing my radio shows. I was sort of hosting imaginary radio shows. I was the sports anchor on sports events. I was just I was playing around.
I want to, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I really want to hear what as a kid would you say as a sports anchor?
Yeah,
just a small bit if you...
Yeah, I kind of forgot that, and a couple of years ago I heard an early tape of that, me being a reporter. We have these table ice hockey games you could play.
Yes.
So I had could have been my sister or my brother, but I think my brother was too young at the time, and some other friend playing ice hockey table, and I was just a reporter, being enthusiastic and treating it as a the final of the Olympics, really. That probably also made me really pursue going into radio. So going back to your question, no, I was never really interested. It never really occurred to me to become a musician or to actually pursue a musical career, although I played little bit of flute and piano, but mainly I played the trumpet as a kid and as a teenager. Extremely short stint in a band, but sort of ended up being sort of the mixing engineer of a demo tape we made. But other than that, no, creating music was never really something that interested me. I started consuming music and searching for music, finding music, going to concerts, saving money to just buy records, working extra time during weekends to just finance both broadcasting and buying records. That was sort of my first broadcast was probably when I was 15, and at the local radio station in Stockholm, outside Stockholm. I was invited because I had so many records, and people found out, and I had more records than friend that I got to know who was a radio DJ at the small station, and he invited me. I gotta have your records. I gotta play your records. So why don't you join me? Come on. And then he was just like, you sound really good. You should do it as well. Let's talk with the boss. Let's have a talk. So the next week I was on, and I was actually really bad. I was so bad because I was really prepared in a sense, but I just wanted to sound like a mixture of, the best hosts you've heard on radio. And I listened to some American stations, some British stations. Radio Luxembourg was a sort of a pirate outside Britain that I listened to a lot on. It was short, medium wave. It was not even on FM. But, when I came back home and, we had we had a gathering of cousins and relatives being at our house, because this was afternoon. And I was pretty, proud. They were actually going to listen to my show. And then when I came back, my cousin, who was at, in my age, so sharing the same interest in music, he said, yeah, it was kind of good, but it wasn't really you, was it? And I was just like, what? And then I listened to it, and it sounded like I was trying to do the best radio show ever. So it was so weird. And after that,
come on, you were 15.
Yeah, I was 15. Yeah, still playing radio, and it. I never went back to the, pretentious, trying to do the best radio show on earth.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But you learn. So that was quite interesting. And after that, it's sort of been a mixture of doing radio, finding music, playing music, sometimes as a DJ. Yeah, so it's a mixture.
So that brings me to the question: how many records do you own now, as of today?
It's in probably it's around 14 to 15,000 records. It's quite a lot.
A real treasure.
Yeah, depends on who you ask. For me, obviously, yes. But for some people close to me who feel that every room is filled with records, they might disagree. But I don't have all the records at my house. It's I have the majority of them in an office. So it's you need to spread it out. And but I love it. I wouldn't say I'm a record collector in a way. It's sort of, because I'm not the one buying the most rare records. I buy records to play. I buy records by, sometimes sentimental reasons, of course, but mostly because I love it. And I'm not obsessed with buying and selling. And I don't really care if I have a record that is, the first pressing or that pressing.
Super rare.
Yeah. I've had, offers. People have, wanting to sell collections to me and with, really rare records. But I'm not really bothered about that. Can actually, I'm more interested in if it sounds good. I mean, some records I prefer on CD because it's really dynamic or it's really soft, might be piano. or orchestrated, I find it sounds better and easier to have it on CD than vinyl getting, ripped up. I probably should sell some records that I don't listen to, of course, anymore. You can't listen to
Everything.
that vast amount of records, but I'll take that in due time.
Any interesting stories with one of the records that you have, like why you got them, or something that happened when you were listening to it, like, or what is your one of the top 5 records you would say are your go-to that you can play on loop? Maybe that's a hard one.
Yeah, that's a rather different one, but it's a thing that happened probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I'm a huge fan of soul and sort of the funk era. Also started to collect. When I was young, they didn't remember, they were still releasing records, so I bought all of their records, loved it, and then I heard on radio a song that to me sounded like a Chic song. It was by a singer called Norma Jean. It turned out that Norma Jean, of course, did sing on some of the Chic records, and they decided to do a solo album with her. Although that solo album, I never saw it. I just heard it once on sort of a local radio. Couldn't find it. These were pre-internet days. So, and I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't someone who sort of weekly, went out on search for, obscure records. I bought mainly new stuff to play on the radio or to play as a DJ. So finding old records have never really been, I've never really been on a hunt for that. Fast forward, 20 years, and I'm actually a friend dragged me to a record show, or a
listening session, or
no, sort of a big arena just filled with record sales.
Okay.
So, and basically mostly old records, of course. And I wasn't actually buying any records. I was just sort of like, just old records once again, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I pass a small record stand, and it's actually this guy, going through some records, and all of a sudden I glance to my right side and I see actually he takes up an album with an artist called Norma Jean, and my heart stopped because I instantly realized that's the record, that's the artist, that's how she looks. I've never seen her, perhaps on a photograph, way back. And all of a sudden I realize, should I grab the record and run? And now he took up the record and sort of contemplated, yeah, this looks good. And he actually says to the guy, can I have a listen to it? And because there were actually a listening station. And I realized, fuck, he's gonna really love this one, enjoy it, and obviously buy it. And he listened to it thoroughly. And I was just, I started to sweat. And I was just trying to be, do something else. Cool. And realize that I'm about to miss an opportunity here. And all of a sudden he was finished listening to it and said, nah, that's not for me. And I was sort of like, my life returned. My soul who had left the body was all, came back.
Yeah.
And I started feeling joy again. And I realized, I can have a listen to that if it's possible. And the guy was just, yeah, sure. And then I just, yeah, this is the one. And obviously I bought it. And it probably cost me, €2. It's sort of like, it was cheap, because it's not a famous record. It's really good. It sounds like Chic. So it's a great record with a few great tracks. But that's sort of one of the moments where I constantly, you get thrown back to a specific time, an era where you were sort of molded in a way of and shaped as a youngster, and all of a sudden that you get thrown back in time, and you find the record that you knew your life wouldn't be complete without. And
Oh
it's
my
good.
God.
It's good in a sense because it wasn't a rare record. It's probably worth €5 these days. Yeah, it's just a good record.
That is so amazing, because I guess that's how maybe some rich folks who have been looking out for a certain record like that, and then they're willing to pay any price for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's
I
how
would have.
these. Yeah, would you pay like €100 for it if they'd asked you?
I'd say, yeah, but what about 95? Yeah. I've paid when records started getting extremely expensive a couple of years ago when the cost of pressing went up and record plants shut down and everything. All of a sudden you could play, you had to pay. I think I paid around €80 for an album, and that was newly pressed. It was 4 vinyls in one as an album, and I went to a record store locally here in Stockholm, and I was amazed that they actually had that record in by a producer called Omar S, a US producer, and I love his stuff, and I actually say I have to have a listen. Probably just 10 tracks, on four LPs.
For LP.
Yeah, and I was so tired in a sense. I need to buy this. So it was good. I had to buy it. So it's sort of like then you have to decide how many tracks out of these 10 need to be good to make it worth buying it, and that's part of my way of thinking as a youngster as well. When buying records, when you were going to school, worked extra time, you had to decide what's the ratio of good songs, bad songs, how much. Yeah, so it had to have at least 2 or 3 songs on an album for me to buy it. So yeah,
Like a return on investment. Like,
yeah.
what is the true value of this product?
Yeah, and it was
Wow.
never at that time. It was never about this might be worth something in the future. No, it was sort of just like, I love this. Yeah.
So, and when did you foray into electronic music, and how did that come about? And I mean, you started to discover, and I think through you, Stockholm in a way started to discover electronic music. So, how did that happen in your life?
It was, I'd say, probably a rather natural progression, because when I was grown up sort of in Sweden, of course, absorbed by the sound of ABBA. And so pop music was really strong. And then, as I said, I went into soul, funk, and that led me, of course, into the early stages of hip hop. And I kind of liked hip hop very much, but I was also amused by the sounds that emerged sort of along hip hop, the early electro stages, and because that resonated with the new wave movement in UK, the synth pop, and then all along the way, I fell in love with Heaven 17, Human League, and these sounds, and by friends discovered Kraftwerk. So it's sort of like the synth pop, new wave together with hip hop, electro, and then house came along mid-80s. That sort of felt like this is the modern way of music. This is the modern way to listen to music, and these are the new sounds. And I realized that all along I was interested in melodies, but I was also very fascinated by sounds and new electronic sounds. So that sort of took over, and I became sort of obsessed with electro and the early techno and
Music.
yeah, it's because not everything, but especially some of it really sounded like music from the future. And future was something that a lot of people were talking about those days, early 80s, because it was really bad times. It was George Orwell had the book 1984 that we read in school about this doomsday thinking of society and Big Brother taking over. There were a lot of science fiction movies around. So this all played together in a sense and sort of created a thing that I wasn't really interested in escaping, but it sort of became a fun way of escaping and focusing on something that felt the new era, different to what, parents were doing or what the old generation was into. So that's sort of how I sort of slowly got into electronic music.
Which was what artists really, like, you heard them and you were like, my God, what is this? And this is really from the future.
It's a mixture of the early Human League and combining it with Kraftwerk. That was weird to me. And then at the same time, Giorgio Moroder had been around for years doing pop songs the electronic way. So there were always these sounds that felt really different. And Jean-Michel Jarre out of France, that was really something extra. And although it wasn't as focused on dance floor or pop, it made you feel like you went something else
In
when you
another
put
world.
on your headphones and listen to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a
Now,
combination
do you
of
think
yeah.
today, when you discover music, how do you do it, and what is the kind of some things that you really watch out for when you're looking for new music? Because there's so much. If you had some thoughts on how you try to make sure that you don't go through all the crap to find the gems, but sometimes maybe you have to, but how do you avoid it?
It's not really possible to avoid because you want to listen to a lot of music. You do want to hear some of the bad stuff as well to be able to find the good and to appreciate the extraordinary sounds that might be around. I'd say it's a mixture of production. It's a mixture of if you find and hear any new thoughts, new ideas in the production. That's the main thing, really. These days, it's so easy to make a production sound rather impressive, rather good, of course, but it takes something extra to make a track stand out. And it's, becoming more difficult each year, I'd say, for producers to stand out. Sometimes it might be as easy as finding a really good singer. Having just a singer and a piano might be, breathtakingly good. It all depends on if you can craft a song good enough. When it comes to the music I'm listening to and searching for more electronic, the electroacoustic sounds or just some weird noises, it's a mixture of, have I heard this before? What kind of thing is this? Is this something really new? Does this stand out? Is this just an ordinary house track trying to fit the EDM, mold, or is it someone trying to
reinvent?
To reinvent, and sort of, is this someone trying to mix genres and actually fail, but it's kind of cool that they're even trying, So it's sometimes I play stuff that might not be the best thing you've heard, but it might be so different that it's worth exploring. And I've always loved those type of tracks and records, because they're bound to make someone change their mind about music and what you can do. And I found that out because I had a radio show on national Swedish radio for 15, 16 years. And the early years, I really did want to play obscure electronic music. And that meant playing a lot of Autechre, a lot of Aphex Twin, and a lot of experimental stuff that these guys and the record label Warp
Square
put out.
pusher kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's like really pushing it on radio, isn't it?
Yeah. For some people, it changed their, life. As they told me in letters, it's sort of a mixture of a combination of me, getting it played on radio, of course, but them being, just exposed to it, and realizing music can sound like this. It's rather weird, and it's sometimes you just need to place yourself in someone else's mind, in a sense, and say, I might not really enjoy this, but it sounds so different. I might give it a try. So I have loads of records that people wonder if they go through my collection. You have this, or what's this? And then when I play it, it's sort of like, this is just noise. Yeah, in a kind of cool way, I think. So yeah. So I kind of like to push things that way.
That's cool, because there must be a lot of objections you must have faced. Do you remember any such story or incidents from your life, and how you kind of tackled through it to convince someone that, hey, this must be on radio?
I've been fortunate enough to actually been able to produce my own show, and the bosses at the station that I've had, they don't know that much to interfere,
Okay.
They know that they're...
That's so cool.
Yeah, they know that, okay, it's up to him to decide. We can't, enter the studio and say,
push our
we've
agenda
had it.
there.
Yeah. So, it's been really good. I've been really fortunate of creating shows that no one else has dictated what to play, what not to play, and I kind of like the mixture of playing really some stuff that people might tend to think it's commercial electronic music, but I kind of like now and then to have a mixture of that, compare and play it alongside some really dubby, weird electronica with just some bass and some everyday noises. So it's I think people actually do listen to such a broad variety of sounds and music during their days and lifetime. So it's weird to think that, yeah, I'm going to do a 1 hour house show, steady beats, chord progressions. Yeah, it's going to be good with some uplifting vocals. I listen to more than that, and that's what I want to play as well, which means it's when I'm doing radio shows these days, it's not as much as a mix show. It's more a variety of sounds, and it's been getting easier, I'd say, to do that the last couple of years. When you realize you're older, it's you tend to not think as much of what people think.
Yeah.
Is this, no, he's, blah, blah, blah. No, he was better before, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I was probably better in so many ways before at an early age, but this is what I'm about to do now and love and enjoy these days. So and we've had so many friends and guests on the various shows I'm doing and producing, and everyone's so extremely diverse in their taste of music, and we tend to always forget that. And I guess it's the same for you.
Yeah.
You don't listen to one specific thing over and over.
Yep.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Yes. I mean, for me, it's always been about the randomness of things in music. Like the more random they are, I feel like the more you can understand and discover. And, because radio, if it becomes repetitive, it's boring. Radio is fun when it's radio and it's random and it's alive, like life, not just some boring algorithm shit going on.
Exactly. That's why live radio might be, and sometimes is the best thing to actually listen to instead of a playlist these days from streaming services. So it's something that stands out and surprises you. Yeah, I'll think about that.
I don't know. I kind of don't like listening to playlists so much. I do love listening to albums, like full albums, and then also being able to pick a song that I like and then trying to figure new music through it, like by playing a radio through that, or, and that helps me a lot to like find new music that I love also. And so far it's really worked.
Good.
But Akale, I also wanted to discuss with you about you've joined the board that is granting people. Would you want to share granting people money to continue do their creative work and artists? So would you want to share some stuff about that? And what is it
Yeah.
called?
Yeah, it's called Konstnärsnämnden. That's sort of, I don't know I'll have to find the English word for it, but it's sort of a grants committee. I'm part of the committee focusing on music. So we are able to give grants to musicians, singers, composers that want to have help to sort of a grant for going on tour, creating a specific album, or even just having some financial help. So it's really about helping people that have proved that they're actually really good at what they do. So it's, of course, young, talented artists and composers can apply as well. And we tend to sort of give it if you can show that you can fill in the application in the right way, of course. A lot of people miss constantly and to fill it in the correct
The right way.
way. But it's really a nice thing that the Swedish government are still having this opportunity because although culture might be not as prominent when it comes to being supported here. It's constantly lowered figures when it comes to financial support for artists and culture. But this still is a good possibility. And so we have, 5-year grants, 10-year grants as well for artists that sort of helps them to have a monthly payout for a longer period of time. And it helps them stay creative instead of having to sort of divert and leave their art that they're really good at. Instead, they have this financial help, and it's. I wouldn't say the amount is not as much as you can live on it really, but it sort of helps to pay the rent and probably help you to pay food as well,
Yeah,
and it
maybe
helps
one
them
bag
to
from
be.
Ika.
Yeah, it sort of helps them, concentrating and focusing on their skills and to sort of stay active being a performing artist. So I'm going through hundreds of applications each year, probably 500, 600 or 700 different applications for people want to go on tour, people want to have a cultural exchange, because we have several places around the world where Sweden has set up cultural exchanges when it could be studios, it could be residencies. So it's really fun, and it feels very, I'm honored and feels important to do this. I'm amazed in some ways that some of the applications are some of the most well-known Swedish artists, and most of them are having a rough time. And it's sort of the climate for culture and the technology called streaming in some ways have really reshaped their way of having an income.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, it's good. Some artists actually have a prolonged career, but some of them feel like it's out of control. So this helps, in a sense, for some of them.
That's so cool. Kale, that is so cool for the artist because, of course, that's one of the biggest worries today, that streaming, no matter how popular it is, many people are complaining that it really doesn't help them pay their rent. And this is, I think, a great step. And you being at the helm of this in the music situation, I think they're in very safe hands.
I have some really good colleagues as well. So, yeah. Thank you.
That's really cool. Ale, what would you say success for you today is compared to what it was 20 years ago?
For me,
what's the meaning of that for you today?
For me, it's sort of being able to spend time working with what I love the most. For me, that's success personally. And I'm actually happy to help develop, find new talent. It's not trying to make it, to find artists and make them big. It's sort of finding artists, giving them courage enough to sort of pursue what they're into. So a lot of success for me is actually, well, obviously I'm glad being healthy and alive, waking up every day. Hopefully there's sunshine and life feels easier. But success is so much for me focused on my work and what I enjoy doing. I've had very few periods in my life where I was bored of music. These short moments went away really fast, and I'm constantly sort of triggered in hearing new music, and that's sort of success in a way for me, that I'm surprised that I still have the same urge, finding, loving, and caring about hearing new sounds, hearing new creations, going to concerts, seeing young bands have attract an audience. That's sort of that's what I find really fascinating. Success is also still trying to do it a little bit better, trying to
Nudge yourself a little more.
creating radio shows that might be a little bit better than last year. So that's that's success for me in a sense.
Oh, so well said. What would be your advice to young creatives right now in Stockholm, in the world? I guess for you, you've really been able to dream and live the life you imagined for yourself. What would your advice be for young folks today?
It's sort of the same when it comes to as my early example of creating my first official radio show at the local station. The station was called MRS. It's actually still on. It's an online station these days. First you copy. First you create and try to recreate what you love, what you've heard, your idols. Then you need to progress. Then you need to take the next step. You need to find a way of doing your thing and making it sound your thing, making it sound special, unique. And that's so obvious when you listen to music. You could hear a young person. I get a demo, I get a song sent, and you can hear this person is trying to create that, to recreate that. This is not original. This is just a young person going through the first stages of being creative. And that applies to all work, really. It's easier to say, yeah, I'm sort of in the creative arts in a sense when I'm producing radio shows and hosting radio shows. But it can be applied to so many types of work, really. What is it that makes my show stand out? Well, in some ways, it can be my voice as well. It can be, of course, how I say things. It can also be the music I pick for the show. Is there an overarching theme around? So it's so many ways you could actually approach doing a radio show, and that applies to everything. What do I want to do with my music? What do I want to do with this book I'm trying to write? Does it stand out? So yeah, copy first.
That's the way.
Copy first. Do that for I don't know how long. Do that, and then try to find something that you feel like no one else really is doing at the moment. I know that's extremely difficult, but try to just better yourself constantly. And for me, I listen to, as much as I hated it, I listen to my radio shows after I've done them at a young age. I don't do it as much these days, but usually go through my radio shows when I've done it and listen to it. And so...
Wow.
But it's sort of to evaluate and to be somewhat harsh, but then also have some love for what you've done. But it's when you reevaluate or evaluate what you've done, that's when you actually can progress and learn. And that's sometimes
great advice.
Rather scary and boring, but it might be worth it.
That's so cool. Mental health is such a big thing today because of social media and all the distractions, and of course all the things that are going on in the world. Everybody is struggling with one kind of problem or the other. How do you maintain your head above the water? What keeps you in a positive frame of mind? Or what do you do to stay like that?
I've learned throughout the years that I do love routines, and I need in some ways to maintain that. In some, sometimes I'm not as good as being, when things change quick, rapidly. I kind of like doing things in, I like to know what's happening. So my thing is
Like
that
have a
I just
structure.
to have a structure. That's the best thing for me. And I have so many friends and relatives that don't have that and don't need that. For me, it's been sort of very good and really vital. And it's kind of fun in the sense that I'm really good at just going up early, going out for a run. Yeah, and I need to have some routines. Sometimes I'm good at going out for a run and to train. Then I go through periods when I don't, when I focus more on, on just listening to music. But I generally try to have a rather positive attitude. And I have friends that have been who sort of tend to look at things on the negative side. That also tends to play a bigger part of their life, to actually have that view upon life that become bitter and that this didn't happen. Of course, there have been periods when I've didn't get that job or didn't manage to do what I set up to do.
Yeah.
And it can be easy to get bitter. But I've always, just grabbed for the next opportunity, really. I'm lucky in that sense that I have sort of a rather easygoing, carefree attitude. Someone might say that it's lack of emotions. I don't know, but it's sort of like it's rather light approach to what happens to you in life. Shit happens and then you need to move on, not to dwell too much into the bad things, and to constantly focus on what might happen and what you might be if you act. Just a small step could be sort of the beginning to something that might change you in a bigger way. So I'm not much of a life coach, but it's that's what works for me, rather easy routines, and makes me feel so much better when I actually get up, just do something, and then I'm usually a loner, I'm a guy who wants to spend a lot of time by myself. It could be either listening to music.
Solitude is your
Yeah, and in some sense, I'm really social and love hanging out with people, but I also need to sort of steer away and have, really some
private time.
As a youngster, I was when friends knocked on our doors and wanted me to go out with them and play and hang out. I always told, not always, but usually told my mother, tell them I'm not home. And she got tired of that and said, I don't want to lie to your friends. You need to step out of the house. So I had to step out on the back side of our house. So I need to stay out of the building. And then when she knew I was outside, she could say, he's not at home. So she didn't have to lie. Or she could say, he's not in right now. So that was just for me. For me, I was into reading, or I was into listening to music, and those are my friends. Sure, I can see them some other time. Yeah. By myself now, my headphones, and reading a book, listening to music. So it's it hasn't changed. It's weird. Yeah.
And I'm just so happy that we've been able to have this talk, and you could share so much information and wisdom. Before we go, some things you think people should listen to or read or watch that elevate their thinking or improve their mood? Or it could be all of them or some of them, whichever you pick.
There's a book I'm reading that I really love called Neuklang. It's about krautrock. It's about the German music movement, late 60s, early 70s. It's really good. Neuklang. I discovered it, last year. That's a good read if you want to sort of delve into the German sounds that sort of really started also the Kraftwerk. Then obviously left that. But music-wise, yeah, what might be fun to listen to?
Something that recently moved you.
Yeah.
It's right here.
It's the Swedish artist Boko Youth.
Okay.
He's a really bizarre mix, and a good mix, of course. The album's called Gusto. It's pop, rock, punk, electronic, and he's amazing. That's something really good, really worth checking out.
Okay, awesome. And anything you're watching?
Anything I'm watching? Yeah, I really love the what's it called, Pluribus.
On Apple.
Series, on Apple Plus. That got my attention of both being dystopian and fun. Music-wise, it's always fun. I mean, and it's worth checking out if you haven't seen the Yacht Rock documentary on, I think it's HBO, about the American West Coast music. It's really fun, and it's worth checking out.
Okay, awesome. Will do. I'm going to get into this right away.
Oh, cool.
But, Calle, thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
Do you have a skin routine and a wellness routine for yourself? How do you look like you do, man? How do you manage that? You look so young and fresh every time. How do you do that?
Shave with a Gillette razor.
Okay. Guys, there's no Gillette plug here, but
yeah, but I have to thank my mother and my father there. I'm not really involved in these. I haven't, I go out partying, I sleep some. I don't know. I don't do anything.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I just guess it's just your life forces, by the grace of God, touch wood. It's so positive and wonderful. I think that's what is.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. Thank you.
Awesome, Calle. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. What a wonderful.
You're welcome. Yeah, love talking to you, Kirti. Yeah. Cheers.
Take care. Speak soon. Hej då. Calle Dernulf, a true curator of sound and a storyteller of the global dance floor. Here on In the Loop with Kirti Shetty, we celebrate voices that carry knowledge, culture, and wisdom across borders. And today's journey was a reminder of how music connects us all. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who appreciates the deeper side of sound and story. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep yourself in the loop. Until next time, this is In the Loop with me, Kirti Shetty.